You know what's funny? I've spent a stupid amount of money flying to Mexico over the years. Plane tickets, hotels, the whole thing. And Mexico is amazing. I am never going to say otherwise. But a while back, a friend of mine who grew up in Jalisco took me to a neighborhood in Los Angeles. And I remember standing on this corner, hearing music coming from somewhere I couldn't see, smelling carnitas cooking, watching a woman sell tamales out of a shopping cart she'd rolled up to the sidewalk. And I turned to him and genuinely asked if we had somehow crossed the border without me noticing. He just laughed and said, "We never left California, man." That one moment completely changed how I look at this state. I went on a bit of a personal mission after that. I drove, I walked around neighborhoods I'd never been to, I ate way too much, no regrets. And I talked to people. What I found genuinely surprised me. California doesn't just have Mexican influences. It has entire towns and communities that are Mexico, just with a California zip code. These are 10 of those places. I've put them in order, saving the best for last, so if you want to know which California city genuinely feels like crossing the border, stay with me until the end. Number 10, San Juan Bautista, San Benito County. Most people have never heard of San Juan Bautista, and honestly, that's a huge part of what makes it worth talking about. This tiny town sits in San Benito County, tucked between rolling green hills about an hour south of San Jose. From the highway, it looks like nothing special, just a small exit sign and a cluster of buildings. But if you stop, and you absolutely should stop, what you find is something that feels like it belongs in colonial Mexico, not modern California. The reason this place feels the way it does comes down to one simple thing. Time basically stopped here. The plaza at the center of town is a National Historic Landmark surrounded by original adobe buildings that date back to the early 1800s. We're talking structures from 1813, the 1820s, the 1840s. Built when California was still Mexican territory, when this whole state was part of a different country. The Castro Breen House, the Zanetta House, the Old Stables. They all still stand around that plaza, and they feel lived in rather than roped off, which is somehow more powerful than a museum display. Mission San Juan Bautista sits right at the edge of that same plaza, and it has been in continuous use since 1797. That is older than the United States as a working country. On a quiet morning, standing in front of it, there's a stillness that is hard to describe without sounding overdramatic, but it genuinely makes the outside world feel very far away. What gives the town another layer entirely is El Teatro Campesino, the legendary Chicano theater company that has been based in San Juan Bautista since the 1970s. Founded by Luis Valdez during the farm worker civil rights movement, this theater company produced work that changed how the entire country thought about Mexican-American identity. Knowing what that building represents, even just walking past it, changes how the whole town feels. The food scene is small and unpretentious, a handful of family-run Mexican restaurants where everything tastes like it was made by someone who actually cares. San Juan Bautista is at number 10, not because it's the least impressive, but because its version of feeling like Mexico is quiet and historical, rather than loud and sensory. For some people, that's going to hit harder than anything else on this list. It has a way of sneaking up on you. Number 9, National City, San Diego Metro. National City sits at the southern edge of San Diego, so close to the Mexican border that you can feel the proximity in the air. And yet, even people who live in San Diego will sometimes drive through it without stopping. That is a genuine mistake that I'm trying to help you not make. If the more famous San Diego neighborhoods are the polished, celebrated face of Mexican-American culture in the city, National City is the honest, working-class soul of it. This is not a place that has been cleaned up for visitors or featured in travel magazines. It is a real community where people live, eat, shop, and celebrate in ways that are deeply and unapologetically tied to Mexican culture. And there is nothing that needs to be performed or explained for an outside audience because the outside audience isn't really who anyone here is thinking about. Highland Avenue is the main stretch, and walking it on a Saturday afternoon is an experience. There are panaderias where the pan dulce is fresh and cheap and lined up behind glass cases, conchas, cuernos, polvorones, like little edible art pieces. There are carnicerias with hand-painted signs, taquerias that have been in the same family for decades, and small shops selling quinceañera supplies, religious candles, and embroidered clothing that signal a community maintaining a real, ongoing connection to Mexican culture. The thing that hits you almost immediately in National City is that nobody is putting on a show. The families at the plastic table taqueria are just eating lunch. The man playing norteño from his front yard is just playing music. The woman with the fruit cart and a bottle of Tajín is just doing business. There's a casualness to everything that is actually more authentic than most curated cultural experiences you'd pay to attend. The community comes out in serious numbers for Mexican Independence Day, Día de los Muertos, Cinco de Mayo, and Las Posadas. These aren't events organized to attract visitors. They're community gatherings where pride in identity is loud and visible and genuine. National City doesn't have famous murals or tourist landmarks. What it has is something rarer. A day-to-day Mexican-American life that you can walk through, taste, and feel without needing a ticket or a guided tour. Number 8, Oxnard, Ventura County. Oxnard doesn't show up on anybody's California travel list, and that genuinely baffles me every time I think about it. People drive through on the 101 going from LA to Santa Barbara and never give it a second thought. But if you take the exit and spend an actual day here, you'll find a city with one of the most genuine Mexican identities in the state. Not a tourism identity, not a curated one, but the real thing. The Mexican roots of Oxnard run deep and they go way back. This is an agricultural city, strawberries, celery, peppers, lima beans. And like so many farming communities across California, the people who built and sustained that economy were largely Mexican and Mexican-American workers. That history isn't past tense here. It lives in the community that exists today, in the food, the festivals, the language on the street, and the specific pride that comes from a community that knows exactly what it built. The food situation in Oxnard is serious, not the kind of places with artisan cocktail menus and Instagram lighting, but actual taquerias where you order at a window, eat at a counter or a plastic table outside. And the birria will make you stop mid-bite and just sit with it for a second. There are mercados stocked with dried chilies, Mexican spices, and every ingredient you'd need for a proper home-cooked Mexican meal. There are shops selling cowboy boots and embroidered shirts and things that have nothing to do with tourism and everything to do with a community living its actual life. The Cinco de Mayo celebration at Plaza Park is something else entirely. Folklorico dancers in full traditional dress perform with that precise, colorful energy that makes you stand still and watch without meaning to. Live music fills the park. Food vendors line every available space. Families spread out everywhere. It's not a festival that happens to have a Mexican theme. It's a community event that is simply open to everyone who wants to be there. Oxnard also sits on the coast, which gives it this combination you really don't find in many places. A working-class Mexican city with Pacific Ocean access and a fishing harbor. The seafood here follows Baja traditions: aguachiles, fresh ceviches, fish tacos made with actual fresh fish. The kind of cooking that makes sense when you're close to the water, and the people doing the cooking grew up eating this food on the other side of the border. It's unglamorous, genuinely good, and surprisingly hard to forget. Number 7, Santa Ana, Orange County. Orange County. The words probably conjure a very specific image: Newport Beach, Disneyland, golf courses, streets lined with identical houses. What almost nobody pictures when they think about Orange County is a street so thoroughly and energetically Mexican that you'd be forgiven for thinking someone picked up a market town from Jalisco and quietly set it down in the middle of suburban Southern California. That street is 4th Street in Santa Ana, known locally as Calle Cuatro, and it is genuinely something to experience. Santa Ana is one of the most densely Latino cities in the United States, and 4th Street is where all of that cultural energy collects itself into a single loud, colorful corridor. Piñata shops with enormous stars and burros hanging from their ceilings spilling out onto the sidewalk. Quinceañera dress shops with windows full of floor-length creations in every shade of pink and purple you can imagine. Shops that sell exclusively religious items, statues of saints in every size, prayer candles in glass, rosaries, images of the Virgin of Guadalupe printed on everything. Walking down Calle Cuatro on a weekend is a full-body experience, and it is not subtle in the slightest. The food is extraordinary. Santa Ana's taco scene is the kind that people drive from far away specifically to eat. Street vendors here work with hand-pressed tortillas, carnitas, slow-cooked in copper pots, and birria that has a following the way famous chefs have followings. The swap meets and indoor markets in the area are also worth a dedicated afternoon. Gran Mercado on Bristol Street operates as a full indoor Mexican marketplace. Fresh produce, food stalls, handmade goods, piñata makers, and music on weekends. You grab an elote with crema and lime and wander the aisles and at some point completely lose track of time, which is actually the best possible outcome. The cultural events here run year-round, and they run seriously. The Dia de los Muertos altars that families build in Santa Ana, covered in marigolds, photographs, and the favorite foods of loved ones, are the kind of thing that genuinely moves people who slow down long enough to really look at them. Mexican independence celebrations are a significant community event, and throughout the year, there are street fairs and markets that keep the city's cultural heartbeat audible. Santa Ana comes in at number 7, partly because its most Mexican areas require you to know where to look. But if you know that Calle Cuatro exists, and you show up with time and hunger and an open mind, this city absolutely delivers. And if you're enjoying this so far and you're not subscribed yet, please do that now. There is a lot more content like this coming. Places in America that feel like other countries, cultural pockets nobody talks about, and the kind of travel content that makes you realize the most interesting places are sometimes the ones closest to home. Number 6, Old Town San Diego, San Diego. Old Town San Diego has a claim that many places in America try to make, but very few can actually back up. It is the literal birthplace of California. The first permanent European settlement in what became this state was established right here, and for a long time this ground was Mexican. Not influenced by Mexico, not adjacent to Mexico, actually legally, officially Mexican. That history didn't disappear when California changed hands. It soaked into the ground, and Old Town has been sitting on top of it ever since. The State Historic Park at the center of Old Town recreates what life looked like here during the Mexican and early American periods, the 1820s through the 1870s. Adobe buildings with thick walls and wooden beams, a central plaza with old trees providing shade, and the overall layout of a Mexican village. A proper zócalo, the kind you find in the center of towns all over Mexico. Walking through it on a quiet weekday, it doesn't feel like a theme park. It feels like a neighborhood that simply never got around to modernizing, and that feeling is genuinely rare. What keeps Old Town from feeling like a dead exhibit rather than a living place is the constant cultural activity. The mariachi performances here are daily. Not a once-a-week tourist draw, but an actual daily feature of life in the neighborhood. You'll hear them before you see them. That full, warm sound of trumpets and guitar run coming through the air, and something about it in that specific setting, surrounded by those adobe walls, makes it feel exactly right. The Dia de los Muertos celebrations here are some of the biggest in Southern California. The candlelight procession, the elaborate altars set up throughout the park, the face painting, the traditional foods. It becomes a genuine community event that pulls thousands of people together, and there's something deeply powerful about it happening in a place with over 2 centuries of direct connection to Mexican heritage. The restaurants in Old Town have been part of the neighborhood for a long time and reflect that. This is not the place for trendy food. It's the place for enchiladas made by people who have been perfecting the same recipes for decades, and that counts for a lot. Old Town lands at number 6 because it does lean toward the tourist experience. It's become a destination, which is entirely understandable but means it carries slightly less of the raw, everyday community feeling that the higher entries on this list have in full. Number 5, Mission District, San Francisco. San Francisco doesn't usually come up when people talk about Mexican culture in California. Los Angeles takes that conversation almost every time, usually for good reason. But the Mission District in San Francisco carries a cultural weight that would genuinely surprise you if you've never spent real time there. And dismissing it because it isn't LA would be a real mistake. The neighborhood gets its name from Mission Dolores, the 1776-built Spanish mission that still stands on Dolores Street, one of the oldest buildings in all of San Francisco. The fact that it anchors a neighborhood that has been Latino for generations isn't a coincidence. Mexican and then broader Latino communities settled and built roots here over many decades, and the result is a neighborhood with a cultural character that feels genuinely distinct from everything else in the city, which is saying something given how many distinct neighborhoods San Francisco has. The murals in the Mission are famous, and they've been famous for decades for good reason. Clarion Alley is the most visited of the Mission's mural spots, and walking through it feels like walking through a gallery that is alive and constantly changing. One that reflects the concerns, pride, grief, and joy of the people who live around it in real time. The work here is not decorative. It addresses immigration, identity, Mexican history, civil rights, gentrification, hard things, painted large and in full color, with no apology for how uncomfortable some of it is. It's a neighborhood telling its own story in the biggest medium available. The food in the Mission is genuinely legendary. The Mission-style burrito was born here. That enormous foil-wrapped cylinder of rice, beans, meat, salsa, and crema that has been imitated in every city in America and perfected nowhere else. Lines form at places like La Taqueria, not because of hype, but because the food consistently earns them. And beyond the famous spots, the Mission is full of taquerias, fruit stands, panaderias, and taco trucks that are just as good and a fraction of the crowd. This is a neighborhood where you can eat extremely well for not very much money, which is increasingly a rare thing in San Francisco. The Dia de los Muertos procession in the Mission District is one of the most spectacular in the entire country. Thousands of people in elaborate face paint and traditional dress, carrying altars and photographs and candles through the streets at night. It's the kind of event that people fly in specifically to witness. If you have any possible way of being in San Francisco for it, go. Number 4, Olvera Street / El Pueblo, Los Angeles. There's a specific feeling that happens in big cities sometimes where you turn a corner and everything shifts at once. The sounds change, the smells change, the whole mood of the street is different, and you feel like you've stepped somewhere completely new. In Los Angeles, that feeling happens the moment you walk onto Olvera Street. Olvera Street sits inside El Pueblo de Los Angeles State Historic Park, which is the oldest section of the city. This is where Los Angeles actually started. Not the Hollywood version, not the freeway version, but the beginning, when this was a small Mexican pueblo at the edge of the empire. The buildings here include some of the oldest structures in all of Southern California, and the Avila adobe, built in 1818, predates California statehood by 30 years. Olvera Street itself is a brick-paved pedestrian lane lined with shops, stalls, and restaurants, and on a busy weekend afternoon, it works on all 5 senses at the same time. Piñatas hang from every ceiling and doorway in colors that seem almost impossible: hot pink, electric blue, blood orange, lime green, swaying slowly in whatever breeze finds its way between the buildings. The smells come from every direction: carnitas on the grill, fresh tortillas on the comal, flowers stacked high, candles burning from the ofrenda that sits at one end of the street. Mariachi music is almost always happening somewhere, and the sound of it bouncing off those 19th century brick walls makes the whole thing feel cinematic in a way that's hard to manufacture anywhere else. The cultural calendar on Olvera Street is one of the fullest in Los Angeles. Dia de los Muertos here draws enormous crowds with elaborate ofrendas, face painting, traditional dress, and the kind of gathering that fills the plaza and spills into the surrounding streets. The Virgen de Guadalupe celebration on December 12th is massive. Mexican Independence Day in September turns the whole area into a street party. And just nearby is the Piñata District, where you can find more varieties of piñatas than most people knew existed. Traditional, 7-pointed stars, pop culture characters, animals. All made by hand by people who have been making them their whole lives. What makes Olvera Street land at number 4 is the combination of real historical depth and sensory richness that very few places can match. Yes, it's a tourist destination. Some of the shops sell trinkets you could find anywhere. But underneath all of that is something that cannot be faked, a place that has been the cultural and emotional center of the Mexican community in Los Angeles for generations. The feeling is in the foundations. Number 3, Boyle Heights, Los Angeles. If Olvera Street is the historic face of Mexican Los Angeles, Boyle Heights is its living, present tense heart. This neighborhood on the east side of the LA River is one of the most deeply Mexican-American communities in the entire United States, and a day spent here is one of the most immersive cultural experiences California has to offer. Full stop. Start at Mariachi Plaza, the outdoor public square at Boyle Avenue and 1st Street. What happens here on any given afternoon is something you genuinely have to see. Mariachi musicians, barhom, full bands, trios, solo players gather in their traditional outfits, embroidered bolero jackets, wide-brimmed sombreros, tailored trousers with silver buttons down the leg. They stand, they wait, they play. People drive up, negotiate a price, and take a band off to play at a birthday party, a quinceañera, a funeral, an anniversary celebration. This economy has been running since at least the 1930s. The stone gazebo at the center of the plaza is a gift from the state of Jalisco, the birthplace of mariachi, and it was hand-carved by a single Mexican sculptor. That detail alone tells you everything you need to know about what this place means. A few blocks away is El Mercadito, officially El Mercado de Los Angeles, a 3-story indoor market that opened in 1968. Every floor is something different: religious goods, clothing, food stalls, live music, handcrafted items. It's loud, it smells incredible, and it's full of people doing actual shopping for actual needs, not browsing for souvenirs. You can eat multiple meals here in one visit without trying. Mole, tamales, every kind of taco, raspados, aguas frescas, and Mexican candy in quantities that will remind you that portion control is sometimes a concept worth ignoring. The street food scene in Boyle Heights is legendary in its own right. Mariscos Jalisco, the taco truck that's been parked here since 2001, is the kind of operation that serious food people write love letters to. The shrimp taco, fried sauced, gloriously messy, is the kind of thing that makes people understand why people plan road trips around a single food item. Lines form early and form long, and absolutely nobody in them thinks it wasn't worth it. Boyle Heights has been through decades of pressure. Freeway construction that carved through the neighborhood in the 50s and 60s, waves of gentrification, political fights the community has waged loudly and publicly. That resilience is visible in the murals on the walls, in the businesses that have stayed for generations, and in the simple, powerful fact that this neighborhood still feels completely like itself. That's not an accident. If you've stuck around this long, I genuinely appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a really good time. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and you'll never miss a video. There is a lot more of this coming, and it only gets better. Number 2, Barrio Logan, San Diego. At number 2 is a neighborhood that has earned a level of cultural recognition that almost no other Mexican-American community in the country can match. Barrio Logan in San Diego is not just a neighborhood with Mexican influences. It is a community that fought, literally, physically, publicly, for the right to exist on its own terms, and the result of that fight is visible on every single surface you can see. The story of Chicano Park is the story of Barrio Logan told in miniature. In 1970, after years of industrial development and freeway construction had already done serious damage to the community, the city announced plans to build a police substation on land that had been promised to residents as a park. The response was immediate. The community physically occupied the land and refused to leave until it became a park. It worked. And what was built on that land over the following decades became the largest collection of Chicano murals in the world. Over 100 paintings covering the concrete pillars of the Coronado Bridge that now spans directly overhead. Walking through Chicano Park is one of the most moving experiences available to anyone visiting California. The murals on those bridge pillars are massive, full color, and deeply intentional. Drawing from pre-Columbian civilizations, the Mexican Revolution, the farm worker movement, family life, grief, survival, and pride. Standing underneath them while real life continues all around you, families eating, children running, older couples walking slowly, makes you understand in a very direct way that culture isn't something that belongs in a museum. It lives in communities that fight to keep it alive. Chicano Park was designated a National Historic Landmark, which means the federal government officially acknowledged what the community already knew. This place is irreplaceable. Beyond Chicano Park, Barrio Logan has grown into one of the most creatively alive neighborhoods in San Diego. Logan Avenue is lined with galleries, boutiques, coffee shops, and community-owned businesses. Mujeres Brewhouse, a Latina-owned craft brewery, runs weekend market days where vendors sell art, food, and handmade goods in the parking lot, and it captures exactly the combination of celebration and community that defines the whole neighborhood. The restaurants here are exceptional, with family-run spots that have served the community for generations sitting comfortably alongside newer places that blend traditional Mexican cooking with fresh ideas. The murals extend far beyond the park itself, covering walls and building sides throughout the surrounding streets. Barrio Logan might be the most visually striking neighborhood in all of California, and the reason it's at number 2 and not number 1 is only barely. Number 1, Coachella, Coachella Valley, and here we are. Number 1, the place that, in my completely honest opinion, comes closer than anywhere else in California to making you feel like you've actually crossed the border. Except you haven't, your phone still has full signal, and nobody asked for your passport. Coachella, the actual city, not the music festival, which takes place in neighboring Indio and exists in its own separate universe, is a small desert city with a 98% Latino population, and it operates like a Mexican city, not in a loose, cultural influence kind of way, in the most literal, day-to-day sense. The radio stations broadcast in Spanish. The restaurants, the shops, the conversations happening around you on the sidewalk. Spanish is the language of daily life here, not as a choice or a statement, but simply because it is how this community has always communicated. The celebrations that define the year are Mexican celebrations: Cinco de Mayo, Mexican Independence Day on September 16th, and the Dia de la Virgen de Guadalupe on December 12th, which draws the largest crowds of all and is treated with the full weight of a holy day, not a community event. These celebrations are not organized for visitors. There are no visitors really. These are just the days that matter most to the people who live here, and they mark them accordingly. The murals in Coachella have given the city a second identity entirely. Known as the City of Murals, the Coachella Walls project has produced large-scale public art across the downtown buildings that is genuinely breathtaking. Imagery spanning Mexican history, indigenous culture, the civil rights movement, family, and the desert landscape itself. Standing in the center of downtown and slowly turning to take it all in is one of those rare moments where your internal monologue completely stops and you're just present. That doesn't happen in many places. The food here is something that even the city's own leadership has talked about publicly. Nowhere else in the Coachella Valley will you eat Mexican food this authentic. Not in Palm Springs, not in Rancho Mirage, not anywhere in the valley that has been shaped by resort culture and outside money. The restaurants and street food in Coachella cook for a community that has very specific standards for what good Mexican food tastes like, and those standards are high. The horchata is made from scratch, the tortillas are pressed by hand, the salsas are made fresh every single day using produce that comes directly from the farms that ring the city. There is nowhere to hide bad cooking here, and nobody is trying to. Those farms are a huge part of the story. Coachella has been an agricultural community from the beginning: grapes, citrus, dates, corn, peppers. And the connection between the land, the workers, and the city's Mexican-American identity is not historical background. It's present and ongoing. The civil rights battles that Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta fought right here in the Coachella Valley in the 1960s and 70s are part of living memory. The community didn't watch that movement happen from a distance. It was the movement. What makes Coachella #1 above every other place on this list is the full combination. The population, the language, the food, the murals, the civil rights history, the agriculture, the celebrations, and the simple, honest fact that none of it exists for you. None of it is curated or performed for an outside audience. You are walking through a Mexican-American city going about its daily life, and that is the most genuine, most powerful version of this experience that California has to offer. You don't need to go to Mexico to feel Mexico. Sometimes you just need to take the right exit. Thank you so much for watching this entire video genuinely. This one took time and care, and it means a lot that you stayed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do it right now. Hit the bell, share this with someone who loves California or loves Mexico or both, and I will see you in the next one.